The boardroom smelled of coffee-stained carpet and new leather, a faint tang of expensive cologne trying and failing to cover something heavier. Fear. Outside the glass, a city that still loved its cars moved on, indifferent. Inside, a long oak table held the faces of a company that could no longer hide the math. BMW, an icon of tradition and pride, sat on the edge of a cliff. Profit charts in a PowerPoint, spreadsheets with shrinking margins, and an inbox full of investor letters demanding answers. Pride couldn't pay the bills. You can almost hear the silence before the first blunt sentence. "We're one vote away from selling the badge," the CFO said, voice low, not theatrical, only practical. A founder's hand clenched the arm of his chair until the knuckles went white. Someone else, a product chief, pushed a prototype brochure across the table like an offering meant to buy time. It wouldn't move the market. The room understood that instinct. Keep creating, keep prestige. But instincts don't reorder debt. They talked in numbers and in metaphors, cut here, bridge product there, until the conversation stripped away ego. Hard cuts meant dealerships closed, projects killed, people reassigned. The bridge product would be a practical machine designed to buy breathing room, not to win awards. Strategy demanded a ruthless focus. Stop vanity projects, stop assuming the badge would sell itself, and rebuild trust by delivering vehicles customers actually wanted to buy. There was no hero moment, no last-minute rescue. The decision to choose survival over spectacle came like a surgical incision, necessary, precise, and painful. Someone joked about burning the brand in public before anyone else could. A quiet chuckle that masked real grief. But beneath the grief lived a plan. Dirty in the sense that it was unglamorous, pragmatic, and morally complex. It would make enemies and save the company. If you're sitting on your own cliff, debt piling up, chaos in the org chart, sales slipping, or frozen by the fear of risk, watch this closely. If this strikes a chord, give the video a like. Tell me below. Which hurts most right now, debt, disorganization, low sales, or fear of taking risks? Subscribe to follow the rest of the steps. Next, I'll take you inside the exact choices they made and the bridge product that bought BMW time to breathe. The room smelled like burnt coffee and old leather. A small, merciless theater where a company's future was being auctioned to the loudest spreadsheet. Around the long table sat men and women whose faces had been chiseled by success, now softened by exhaustion. The CFO pushed a stack of printouts forward. Cash burn? 3-month runway, market share erosion. Silence stretched until the CEO, voice low but steady, cut it like a knife. Pride won't pay the bills. An assistant raised a hand, voice trembling. If we don't act, buyers will decide for us. They argued over projects with pet names and higher margins, over prototypes that cost prestige more than profit. The head of design kept defending a concept car, beautiful, uncompromising, while the operations chief quietly held the line item that showed months of idle machinery. Investors, watching from an adjacent room through frosted glass, wanted immediate numbers. The math was brutal. Either trim the fat ruthlessly or surrender the badge. Outside, rain hammered the windows as if the weather itself were impatient. They made a list with surgical precision. Cancel 2 platform programs, freeze hiring in every non-core unit, sell underutilized real estate, and consolidate regions that duplicated costs. Layoffs came with faces remembered and apologies whispered. It was ugly and necessary. The CEO signed severance packages at midnight, hands tired but uncompromised, because hesitation now would mean selling the logo to the highest bidder tomorrow. But cuts alone would only buy time. They needed a bridge, an honest product that could sell quickly and rebuild cash flow without betraying the brand. The engineers were ordered to stop refining vanity projects and instead adapt an existing chassis into a lean, efficient model that customers could buy this year. It wasn't glamorous. Shared components, simplified options, no show-stopping gimmicks. Yet it was strategic, quality where it mattered, cost where it didn't. The boardroom's mood shifted from panic to a grim, practical hope. You can hear the tension in every exchange. Fear, relief, stubborn dignity. If you found yourself in that chair, which cuts would you make first? Debt restructuring, reorganizing teams, slashing product lines, or risking a bridge model that could either save you or sink you further. Think about it and stay with me. Next, we go inside the factory where that bridge product was born and see whether a pragmatic gamble turned into a revival. Subscribe if you want to follow the rebuild step by step. The boardroom felt like a courtroom. Fluorescent lights buzzed. Leather chairs sat stiff with men and women who had meant to be saviors and were now on trial. A man at the head of the table, call him the interim CEO, slid a thin folder across the polished wood. Inside were numbers that read like a verdict. Months of cash, unsold inventory, projects that promised glory but destroyed margins. Around him, decades of pride constricted into a single, impossible question. Sell the badge or choose survival by any means necessary. There was no theatrical speech. One investor, voice dry as dust, said plainly, "Can you stop the losses this quarter?" The CEO closed his eyes for a beat, then opened them with something colder. A plan that traded vanity for velocity. "We cut," he said. "We stop everything that doesn't pay today. We build one bridge car, simple, profitable, unmistakably ours, and we use that cash to buy time." The room splintered into argument and silence. Heads that once nodded at conceptual renderings now counted screws on samples. Outside the glass, the factory loomed like a patient that needed amputation to live. They shut a line, repurposed tooling, mothballed a prestige project nobody could sell. Designers ripped aesthetic indulgences out of a prototype and left the bones. Tight, mechanical, efficient. In another workshop, an engineer wiped grease from his hands and whispered to a young mechanic, "Do it right and people will forgive the rest." The younger man looked at the stripped-down body and found hope where there had been shame. There was blood, layoffs that echoed down cafeteria halls, bonuses canceled, offices consolidated. There was bargaining, lenders asked for guarantees, suppliers accepted smaller orders for a promise of future business. Every cut smarts, but every cut also bought breathing room. Pride, the thing that had gilded bad decisions for years, was deliberately silenced. The board learned to value a margin over a monogram. If this is striking a nerve, if debt, chaos, falling sales, or fear of risk are where you live, pause and tell me which one hurts most right now. Hit like if you want more of this kind of hard-earned clarity. Next, I'll take you inside the bridge product. How a humble model pulled cash flow back in and restored a battered brand soul. Silence fell like a weight as the last vote was cast. The boardroom's glass walls reflected a skyline that had suddenly stopped promising. Around that table, men and women who had built a legacy watched the CEO lower his head and say, almost to himself, "We can keep the badge and die, or we can choose what to keep." It wasn't cinematic thunder or a miracle investor that saved them. It was the willingness to amputate what was killing the patient. Platforms that didn't sell, prestige projects with no return, and a culture that rewarded ego over discipline. You can picture the morning after. An empty factory bay where a shiny prototype once stood, now replaced by a smaller team, a leaner line, and a single bridge car engineered to buy time. Engineers slept at their desks, not out of glory but out of a shared urgency. A product manager snapped a picture of a cost sheet and told a skeptical director, "If we don't cut this, there is no tomorrow." Those hard conversations, frank, painful, decisive, rebuilt credibility faster than any glossy press release. Here's the practical plan embedded in that drama, condensed into steps you can adapt. First, assess cash runway with brutal honesty. Know the weeks, not the months. Second, strip projects to the core value that customers will pay for. If it doesn't directly move revenue or reduce burn, it goes. Third, build a bridge product that preserves brand relevance while development of the long-term vision continues. Fourth, restructure teams around outcomes, not titles. Clarity beats comfort. Fifth, communicate openly with investors and dealers. Honesty creates trust you can spend later. Finally, protect the brand's soul in public, but be ruthless with internal vanity. If you're staring at the same cliff, debt, chaos, sinking sales, or fear of the leap, remember the quiet truth from that glass room. Pride can't cover payroll. The choice is seldom glamorous, but it is yours to make. If this hit home, tap like and tell me below, Which hurts most right now? Debt, disorganization, low sales, or fear of taking risks? Subscribe if you want the next video where I break down the exact 90-day survival playbook used behind those doors.